In this video, we're looking at UFC 293. I'm going to give you my predictions, we'll talk about some of the best bets of the week, and I'm going to break down every fight on the card, so make sure you watch until the end. As always, you can call me Kunith. Let's make some money this week. We're back, the videos are back. I told you I'd be gone, so for those of you that are like, where are the videos? I told you I was traveling, but I'm back now, the videos are back, capiche? But even in the absence of the videos, you can always get valuable insight on KunithMMA.com. We are hitting parlays with so much regularity, it's almost frightening. I put the parlays up on the community tab after the event on YouTube, so if you don't believe it, go back and check. It's regular, it's normal. We're more regular than your grandfather drinking his Metamucil spiked coffee in the morning, you understand, Junior? And for all the official bets, the parlays, the DraftKings strategy guide, which has been Money in the Bank ladder match, you can go to KunithMMA.com. That will be linked in the description and in a pinned comment. I won't waste another second of your time though. We'll get right into the breakdown. This is a good one. At the very top of the card, we have gold on the line. We have the last style bender, one of the best MMA fighters, not of his time, but of all time, defending his belt once again against Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is a huge underdog this week, and it makes sense. The only advantage he might have in this fight is volume, but I don't know if that will be the case this week. His volume might be stifled this week because Israel Adesanya is moving left and right more than pegs on an abacus. He's going to have the faster feet, he's going to create more angles offensively and defensively, and he's also going to be throwing those leg kicks out there. I expect all of that to really disrupt the timing coming from Sean Strickland, which is going to result in him throwing fewer strikes than normal, and without the big volume and discrepancy, Sean Strickland is relegated to average at best. He doesn't throw many kicks, there's not a ton of power on most of these punches compared to other guys in the division, he isn't wrestling all that often, and he does fall into a bit of a predictable pattern in these fights. Against the best striker in the sport, I feel like he's going to get picked apart. I see Adesanya fighting hard this week, fighting with a chip on his shoulder, and we've seen him fight like this in the past. We saw it in the first fight against Robert Whittaker, we saw it against Paulo Costa, we saw it in the second fight against Alex Pereira. When Israel Adesanya wants to make a statement, he does that, and that's why I see him knocking Sean Strickland out and TikToking on his grave.
When we fight, I knock you out, I'm gonna do a TikTok dance over your grave.
He's a big favorite here, and rightfully so. He's going to be better everywhere. I think that he's a parlay piece for you this week if you just want to attack the money line, and if you want to bet on him by himself, I think you could sweeten the deal by getting Israel Adesanya by knockout. At the time of recording this, Adesanya by knockout is plus 100. Adesanya by decision is plus 130 if you want to go that route, but I do see him knocking out Sean Strickland this week with a big counter hook, probably in the second or third round. So the pick for me in this fight is Israel Adesanya by knockout and still. Next, we're looking at a fight with Alexander Volkov and Tuivasa. This fight will be fire for however long it lasts, because both these guys are going to be standing, banging, and throwing with power right from the opening bell, and they probably finish this fight in the first round. Tuivasa is 0-2 in his last two, coming off of two bad knockout losses, first to Cyril Gane and most recently to Sergey Pavlovich, which happens to a lot of people. But outside of that, the guy was on a tear, knocking out 5 straight opponents, having a 93% knockout rate in his professional career, and he's scoring knockdowns almost every time he fights. And I like Tuivasa a lot because he's sneaky athletic. You look at that loose belly and forget how fast those hands are, that the chin is really good despite the knockout losses, and that those leg kicks are hitting harder than a T-Pain chorus in the early 2000s. Now on the other side, we have Alexander Volkov, and he's going to be enjoying his big advantages in height and reach. He's 6'7" with an 80-inch reach. That's going to happen. He's coming off of 2 knockout wins, which in my opinion is playing a big role in where the line is, because recency bias, like we've talked about on the channel before, is a hell of a drug.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
And while these are good wins, they're also over guys that I think Tuivasa would have a lot of success against as well. You have Jairzinho Rozenstruik, who's 7-5 in the UFC, and Alexander Romanov, who looks like he probably swims with a t-shirt on. And this is a heavyweight fight. This is one of the most volatile, if not the most volatile division in all of MMA, so there's always value on the underdog, especially because most of these guys have one-shot knockout power. Tuivasa is among the most heavy-handed fighters in the division, and what I like most about him is that he's not going to wait. Take somebody like Jairzinho Rozenstruik, for example. He has some early knockouts in his career, but you do see him doing a lot of waiting, a lot of countering, a lot of attempting to set up a counter. Tuivasa is the exact opposite. He's not afraid to brawl with anybody. You saw that against Sergey Pavlovich. I'll throw down with you right here. He's not afraid to brawl with anybody, and I think that's going to serve him well against somebody like Volkov, because guys try to stand at range with Volkov, that's a mistake. You try to stand there and counter Volkov, it's not going to work. Not only is he long, but he's sharp as well. For a guy that's that physically gifted, he's also very very good at fighting. So most guys in this division are not going to be able to win a technical battle against Alexander Volkov, but that's not what Bam Bam is bringing to the table. He's going to crash the pocket where that reach disadvantage could become an advantage. He can keep his punches tight. I do believe that he has faster hands, and all it takes is one. In front of the Aussie crowd, I think he's going to have some hometown magic. Give me Tuivasa this week by knockout. Manel Kape is on our main card. He fights UFC newcomer Felipe dos Santos, who's making his debut on short notice. Good luck. Manel Kape was supposed to be fighting Haqparast here. Haqparast pulls out with injury. That's the third guy in a row to pull out against Manel Kape. And it's not just anybody who's pulling out of these fights. It's some of the best fighters in the division. You have Alex Perez, who I still believe has a lot in the tank and is very good. Davison Figueiredo, multiple-time champion. Haqparast, one of the best fighters in the division. So he goes from getting matched up time and time again against some elite competition. Now he's fighting a 22-year-old who's only got 7 professional fights to his career against relatively low-level regional guys. It's not good. It's a big opportunity for Felipe dos Santos, and I do think that he's going to bring the fight to Manel Kape. When you got these guys coming out of Shoot to Box Diego Lima, they all fight the same. They're willing to brawl. They're willing to throw down. They have absolute confidence in their preparation, but at 125 pounds, you cannot brawl with Manel Kape. The man is a tank in the weight class. He might hit harder than anybody else, and he has a ton of experience. There's a lot to like about Manel Kape. He's the one that's coming in on a full camp. This guy could be the champion by the end of next year. I think he should be the biggest favorite on the card, and he's not. The line is off. You can hammer Manel Kape if you want, but I think he packs up this young man inside of the first 2 rounds. Give me Manel Kape by knockout. We're running it back with these two, Justin Tafa and Austen Lane, the second meeting between these guys. Last time out, the fight ended pretty early in the first round as a result of a nasty eye poke. Fight gets scratched, and now we get to see these guys do it all over again. Initially, I liked Austen Lane to get it done. He's more athletic, he's longer, he can mix in takedowns if he wants to. But after their first fight, I'm worried that he's going to fight a bad game plan and find himself walking into a big counter hook. Justin Tafa is not a world beater by any means, but he does have massive power that Austen Lane has never felt in his life. And what's tricky for Austen Lane is that Justin Tafa will naturally just carry this power even late into the fight. So if Austen Lane even starts having success early on, he's still live to get slept at any moment. He needs to be perfect for 15 minutes. Justin Tafa needs to be perfect for 1 second. And for Austen Lane, he has 3 career losses, all first round knockouts. I expect him to make a mistake in this fight, overextend a little bit, and find himself getting knocked out again. And even last time back in June, he was the hometown guy, the Jacksonville Jaguar. People were rooting for him. It's the complete opposite now. I see him having a lot of nervous energy, maybe being stiff, playing a little bit too much of tall guy defense. That's a recipe for a perfectly constructed knuckle sandwich from an angry Australian, so give me Justin Tafa this week by knockout. And just a disclaimer, you're going to hear me say by knockout or inside the distance even more throughout this card. I think this is full of finishes, especially at the top half of the card. So I do think that Justin Tafa knocks him out. I think that the DraftKings score in the optimal lineup is going to be real high this week, and I can't wait to talk to you about that in the final picks video that you'll see on Friday morning. Next, we're looking at Anton Turkalj fighting Tyson Pedro, another example of recency bias impacting a line that we need to be taking advantage of. Anton Turkalj is one of the better bets of the week in my opinion. You got Tyson Pedro coming off a loss to Modestas Bukauskas. We predicted that on the channel for the simple fact that Tyson Pedro is not all that good. He has a decent ground game, and that's pretty much the ceiling. His stand-up is okay at best, his cardio is not very good, and he's not the most durable guy in the world. The UFC did a good job of trying to rebuild him slowly with guys like Harry Hansucker and Ike Villanueva, but those wins are meaningless. He flopped last time out against Modestas Bukauskas as a pretty big favorite. Modestas Bukauskas is very simple. 1-2 down the middle, leg kicks, and just circle around the outside. Even when he was able to get takedowns, he wasn't able to finish the fight in that position, and that's not what I like to see out of somebody who came in as a big favorite. So in recent years, when he's facing solid opposition, he's not showing up. Now on the other side, Anton Turkalj is 0-2 in the UFC, but he's one of the most excusable 0-2s in the UFC that you will ever see. He makes his UFC debut on short notice against Jailton Almeida, who might be the best heavyweight in the world, not named John Jones. He loses his light heavyweight UFC debut to Vitor Petrino, who is an absolute powerhouse in a fight where he had a lot of success as well. I believe this guy's a lot better than his recent record is suggesting, and I think that he should get the better of Tyson Pedro on the feet and more than hold his own in the grappling exchanges. And I see him fighting better than Tyson Pedro when they're both tired, so he's going to be beating Tyson Pedro to the next position during the scrambles. When I first looked at this, I thought he he was going to be around a -160, -150 favorite. He's around -110. You can still call that value. He could be around a -150 favorite, and I would still call it value. The Pleasure Man will capture that elusive UFC win this week with a finish over Tyson Pedro sometime after the first round. Give me Anton Turkalj to win this fight inside the distance. And real quick, if you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm. You know how the algorithm works. Now for this next fight, we have one of my favorite plays on the card this week. Carlos Ulberg is fighting Jung. Carlos Ulberg loses his UFC debut to Kennedy Nzechukwu, and I was leery after that, but he's shown us over and over and over and over again that the guy is legit. The speed, accuracy, and power, they're all there.
The gang's all here.
His kickboxing is clean. His poise at range is really something for a guy of his size. Now on the other side, Jung is a big, athletic, strong guy. But he's 2-2-1 in his last 5, and when you start looking through some of these, it's not great. Fighting to a draw with the ghost of Sam Alvey. Yes, he beats William Knight, but William Knight's not even in the UFC anymore. He has a great win over Kennedy Nzechukwu. But then followed that up with a knockout loss to Dustin Jacoby, and then he lost a decision to Devin Clark, who is 8-8 in the UFC. Jung is not throwing too many strikes. He's not all that accurate, and I see him getting picked apart at range. Because of the power that Carlos Ulberg brings to the table, I see Jung being very hesitant and unwilling to engage in most of this fight. I think a lot of the engagements are going to be on Carlos Ulberg's terms. And Ulberg does a really good job of pressuring forward and using that pressure to set up his counter strikes, and I think he's going to catch Jung right at the end of his range, the same way that he did with Tafon Chukwi. I see Jung getting dropped more than once in this fight. I see him losing by knockout. I see most of these fights ending inside the distance. I see Jung getting dropped more than one time in this fight. I see almost all of the fights on this card ending inside the distance because of the matchups, and this one's no different. This is a mismatch, a promotional setup spot, an opportunity to give the local fans what they're looking for. Give me Black Jag to win this fight by knockout. Next, we're looking at a fight with Jack Jenkins and Chepe Mariscal. Mariscal is coming off of one of the most entertaining fights of the last year against Trevor Peek, where he showed off crazy durability, good cardio, and good heart. No, Oscar, cardio and heart are not the same thing. Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth. Just hold the light. I was impressed with the way that he dealt with. You think you're funny? Trevor Peek is not very technically sound, obviously, but I was still impressed with the way that Chepe was able to manage that fight and adjust accordingly, even after eating some big shots. He has a lot of dog in him, and that kind of mentality, that kind of durability, that kind of stick-to-itiveness is going to win you a lot of fights in the UFC. Now, on the other side, Jack Jenkins is the favorite in this fight, and he gives you a lot of reasons for you to like him. His leg kicks are some of the best in the UFC. His hands are sharp. He's riding a 9-fight winning streak. But we do have to acknowledge that his last fight against Jamal Emmers was a bit of a dicey decision. He was taken down and controlled a bit more than you'd like to see. It nearly lost him the fight. Frankly, it probably should have lost him the fight, but I do think that he's going to learn and improve from that experience. Now, if he's able to keep his feet in this fight, which I do believe he will, and if they do go to the ground, it's going to be on his terms, I see him having a ton of success. Mariscal was having a lot of success against Trevor Peek because of his lateral movement. I think that gets shut down this week from the leg kicks coming from Jack Jenkins. I see Jenkins landing these heavy low kicks. That's going to open up the striking upstairs, and I think he's going to win these rounds just based on having bigger moments. I don't see him finishing Mariscal this week because Mariscal is a junkyard dog. I also think that Jenkins is going to have to spend some time defending takedowns up against the fence. But overall, I see Jack Jenkins having more success with the striking, and I do think that with the crowd on his side, if he is in close rounds, he's going to get the rub from the judges. So if rounds are close, he wins. I think it goes the distance. Give me Jack Jenkins by decision. Next, we're looking at a fight with Jamie Mullarkey and John Makdessi. Jamie Mullarkey is a big favorite, which is a red flag. He was a big favorite last time out and ends up getting finished in the second round. He's decent everywhere, but he could be a bit chinny. On top of that, if he gets stuck on the feet here, I'm not certain that he's the better striker in this fight. John Makdessi is a really solid kickboxer with tons of high-level MMA experience. He's a super tough guy. He's hard to get down. He's hard to put away. I feel like the sharper play is to take a dog shot on John Makdessi, but I am still taking Jamie Mullarkey because he's much younger, he's much bigger, he's a much more willing grappler, even if it's going to be hard to get Makdessi down. Jamie Mullarkey has shown us that he's not above laying and praying his way to a decision win. It doesn't make for a fun fight, but it makes for a very winnable fight, and I think if he decided to do that this week, he should have some success. But even on the feet, if he's not the better striker in this matchup, technically speaking, I think that he'll still be able to keep up with the volume of John Makdessi, and just like Jack Jenkins, he's going to get the rub if the rounds are close. So give me the youth, give me the size, give me the cardio, give me the wrestling, give me the home field advantage, give me Jamie Mullarkey to win this fight by decision. Next, we have Nasrat Nasrat Haqparast. He's basically fighting not on short notice. He still has a full camp, but his opponent is on short notice in Landon Quiñones. Nasrat Haqparast is very durable. He's got good hands, good hand speed as well, and I think that he's just going to outpoint Landon Quiñones to a decision win. Now, Quiñones is going to take the fight to him. He's going to be there every step of the way, but I think that he's just going to be a step behind. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with the volume of Haqparast, and I don't think he's going to wear the damage as well. In his most recent fight, it was a loss to Jason Knight on the Ultimate Fighter. He lost by triangle choke, but I do think that Landon Quiñones is going to be able to keep it competitive on the feet. I just don't see him being able to keep up with that volume. And when you consider that it's on short notice, it's his UFC debut, it's on a pay-per-view with a place that's going to be going nuts, I see him just having a lot of nervous energy, fading pretty quick. I think he's knockout or bust here. Nasrat Haqparast is notoriously tough. We've seen him take big damage in the past and be able to fight through it. See him eat a lot of shots in the past and be able to fight through it, and I think that he does well this week against Landon Quiñones. Give me Nasrat Haqparast to win this fight by decision. Next, we have a fight with Charles Radtke and Blood Diamond. Listen and listen good.
You listen to me, you son of a bitch.
I am not laying chalk on a UFC debutant who's coming in to fight somebody who everybody wants to see win. If he comes in here with a wrestling heavy game plan, he might be able to have success against Blood Diamond, but we've seen Blood Diamond's takedown defense vastly improve since he first got in the UFC, and you have to remember, he's losing to Jeremiah Wells. Jeremiah Wells is out grappling almost everybody they're putting in front of him. But for Blood Diamond, I like the size. I like the striking on the feet. I like how unorthodox it is. You have a guy like Radtke who's not super experienced. Wells has good experience. Kosei has good experience. Charles Radtke is making his UFC debut. He's fought largely low-level competition, and if he cannot secure takedowns, if he gets stuck on the feet here against Blood Diamond is not somebody who you replicate very well in the gym. He fights to the beat of his own drum. Very awkward style. Very hard to predict what he's going to do next, and I think that's going to give this guy trouble. I love the value here. I love the price tag. The line is too wide. Give me Blood Diamond. He gets that first UFC win this week. He wins by knockout. Next, we're looking at a fight with Shane Jung and Gabriel Miranda. I can't trust Shane Jung at this stage. He's 2-4 in the UFC. Granted that he drops his debut to Alexander Volkanovski, absolutely no shame in that. He gets packed up with the quickness by Ludovic Klein. He loses every round to Omar Morales. He loses every round to Blake Bilder. I cannot in good conscience pick somebody who has not won a round in over 4.5 years. Now on the other side, Gabriel Miranda is coming off a loss to Benoit Saint Denis. There's no shame in that. Benoit Saint Denis is running through everybody. This guy is a submission threat. He's going to go out there and try to take him down in the first round, try to get him while they're still dry, while they're still easiest to submit. It's going to be hard because Shane Jung is scrappy. Shane Jung has seen it all. Shane Jung fights out of a good gym, but I do think that Gabriel Miranda is just going to be better. And not only that, but he was having success in spots against Benoit Saint Denis. Look at Benoit Saint Denis' last fight against Thiago Moises just a week ago. You cannot look at a 45-second stretch of that fight where Thiago Moises was winning. So that guy is the real deal. Gabriel Miranda was having success against him. If he's having success there, he can have success against Shane Jung. I think that he takes Shane Jung down and submits him in the first round. If he doesn't and he starts hanging around, then maybe Shane Jung starts winning some rounds, takes the second and the third off of him. But I do think that Gabriel Miranda brings the fight to him, picks up his first win in the UFC, and we move on. In the first fight of the night and the last fight that we're going to be looking at for the sake of the video, and if you haven't liked the video, subscribe, comment, all of that. Kevin Jousset fighting out of City Kickboxing, hometown game for him against UFC newcomer Kiefer Crosby. Both guys are making their UFC debut. I like for Jousset that it's a short trip for him, a hometown game, if you will. And what I like for him in this fight is his steadiness. I like the low kicks. I think he's going to be able to use his length effectively and keep that stick out there. I see a lot of 1-2s down the middle landing cleanly because Kiefer's somebody who's just going to bring the fight to you. But for Kiefer Crosby, he's going to come out and try to take this guy's head off in the first round, and I feel like he'll fade the longer that this fight goes because of the style, the atmosphere, the debut. A lot of guys in this card are making the walk for the first time this week, and I think it's going to have a real impact on most of them, and I think Kiefer Crosby may be no different because of that style. I think Jousset's just going to be the cleaner guy. I worry that he's not going to have the same kind of pop or power or presence or moments that Kiefer Crosby has, but I do think that he's going to be able to win rounds with his volume and just being able to keep the range at his range. In a matchup like this where they're probably going to spend a lot of time striking, I'll take the longer guy. I'll take the guy with more tools in the tool bag and the steadier fighter over the course of 3 rounds. Give me Jousset to win this fight by decision. If you've made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment something for the algorithm, and I will see you later in the week for final picks.